Hi, Gregory.
Hello. How you
It's
doing, Leela?
good. I'm so happy to finally meet you.
Yeah, well, online. Yeah.
Me and you seem to have a lot in common.
Mm. So you tell me about it. It's like
Yeah.
you post something all the time. I'm like, wow, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think,
Even
I think
from the
we both,
stories.
I'm sorry. I think we both got started on with law of attraction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was something. My seeking certainly went in there. I don't think it really started there. It's really hard to pinpoint where that actually started for me. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I kind of go back to looking at where did that whole seeking ever start, and it's really, really hard to like pinpoint exactly where it started. Um, I just know it was just full on what was happening. It went from everything from like religion to, or not even that, just even self help to trying to figure out, always how to control this moment. So that was seen as also the seeking because there was always that even as a small child.
Yeah.
Something starts happening, you don't like it, and what happens? You try to find ways to manipulate how to relate, and everyone around you teaching you how to do it. you
Yeah.
know,
Totally.
yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun going to. That was like when you get to a law of attraction, man. What a big excitement that is. And I totally went into that like full on into it, and then even believing I was teaching people and everything, and people are coming to my inbox and all the time asking me for stuff and coming back giving me feedback of what they did and how wonderful it was happening. And I was like, and then it all kind of fell out for me. kind
Wow.
of just stopped in the middle of everything too. Just and then all these people are just hitting me up on it. I still got friends that were into that. They're actually into non-duality now themselves. I didn't talk them into it or anything. They just found themselves there. But yeah, it's just went through all that. So the same thing when I heard that you had went there when you were talking to Sandra and Rosa, and it was oh wow, she was there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
it's kind of funny because you run into certain people with the stories like that too as well. There's a lot of similarities in there and differences, and then you really look at those too, and you're like, what similarities, what differences? But
Yeah.
yeah, but
It's
they do
like
seem to be there, right?
we're the same person, just in different scenarios.
Yeah, it's like peaking, like this peaking at itself. You never know. Like I said, this anything can happen, and this want to call this a dream, um, call it a waking state dream or a sleeping state. It's not different from the sleeping state. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as you're going on in your dreams. You're completely convinced that that's who you are in the
Yeah.
dream.
It's like a mild form of psychosis. Um, we're I like psychology stuff and delusions of grandeur and delusions of all kinds of stuff can start to form into like hallucinations and things like that in psychosis. And we believe in ourselves like an entity, and that is, I mean, call it mild, call it what you want, but it's a form of psychosis, a mass psychosis.
Yeah. And then oftentimes it seems like people actually recognize that, and then they're labeled as crazy. So,
Yeah, we're the
uh,
crazy ones.
yeah, the ones that recognize it, all of a sudden they're the crazy ones. But yeah, anything that comes out of the norm kind of freak people out and stuff. So, but that's only going to the story, to the conditioning of how things are supposed to be, how this is supposed to show up.
Yeah,
This has no way it has to show up. It just shows up the way it does. So,
yeah.
um,
I like saying anything could happen because it's true, and when I was seeking, I thought that this would look a certain way, you know.
mm,
It would look like, me not procrastinating anymore and being motivated, and like the list was really long of what I thought this would give me.
yeah,
And not one of those suspicions were true.
yeah,
It's very
yeah. That was funny.
ordinary.
And you go into the seeking, you always have this idea of what it's going to be. That was strange. You don't know what it is, but there's an idea there of what it is.
Yeah.
And for a long time going through the seeking and then and battling with that too, not understanding that or anything, just and constantly coming back to that. It was like everything I went into, I found, oh, here I am, I found it. I'm there. I'm in the truth now. I finally found the truth. And then you go out trying to teach everyone because they're so excited because you found it. And that one, I mean, that literally went from into like anywhere from self-help to religious stuff to the law of attraction to even when I first got into non-duality, it was like that. Going around telling everyone, no, there's no you.
Yeah. I had
Which-
Zen stink for a little while there. You know what I mean? Zen
Yeah.
stink.
Zen Sync, yeah. Well,
Where it's
who
like,
coined that?
I,
I heard that.
I don't know. I heard Angelo talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
where it originates.
yeah, I've heard it though, yeah. Zen
And
Sync, yeah.
I just feel like I felt like I knew something in the beginning, and that if everybody knew that they would it would help them and they would be happy. And um, when the initial awakening happened, and yeah, people aren't interested, and then later I realized like that's just not what you do. You know what I mean? You don't try to change people. You don't. There's really nothing to give. You know,
Mm-mm,
no information.
mm-mm. What's the death? It's like trying to give them a death that they don't want. Because I
Right.
mean, that's it's like the death of the me. So, but even at that point, when it drops out, it didn't even drop out for me at first. It was all intellectual, but it was very strong. It was a belief, and it seemed more than a belief because didn't really understand beliefs. For was really starting to understand beliefs because of law of attraction. Law of attraction really made me look at beliefs, and then because that was such a struggle for so long. So in that sense, it was kind of a gift because I struggled with beliefs for so long, didn't understand them or anything. And then when I started to see them, like, wow, wait a second, like these things really do color what's going on. Like I really thought this was real, and then not even looking at that, the belief in real between real and unreal, and then started looking into that, and then that kind of fell apart. And then even before the me dropped apart, the whole looking into self-inquiry, when I got into self-inquiry, that was such a beautiful thing because then I just started going into one belief after another, just going jumping into them, and they would just fall apart. And I do it, and I wouldn't replace them. I didn't need to replace them. It just felt very freeing. So then it became this like fascination, just wanting to do self-inquiry like all the time. And like all the time. Even when people are holding conversation, there's a self-inquiry going on internally. That's what it would feel like. And then which is really hard to describe because someone's talking to you at the same time. There's just this self inquiry happening, and at the same time, and then it would go on into the dreams. I'd go into my dreams, and the self inquiry was going on into the dreams. So it was like, and I'd go into the dreams, and it was like every single dream was lucid because I already knew, oh, this is just another dream, and I know it was a sleeping dream. And I just said, no, it's a sleeping dream. And I just
Yeah.
like, okay. And then there was a long time that would go on, and then I was like, I wonder what it'd be like to go back into a dream, and could that even happen again? Could I go back in a dream and think that's me again? Would I know? Would that recognition be gone? And then not even long after that, a dream came along, and then that's what happened. And during the dream, and I'm convinced in the dream that's who I am. And I woke up out of the dream, and instantly when I woke out of the dream, came into the waking state, was wait a second, that was a dream. I totally bought it all the way through. That was really happening. I really thought it was me again in the dream. Really felt
Wow.
separate and everything. I was just totally bought that I was the character in
Wow.
the dream. So the recognition can seem like it can go, come and go, and all that. And I seen that it's also part of the dream.
Yeah, even now there can be more, well, this is really hard to describe, but it's like a subtle, very subtle, more or less lucidity. Like thoughts can be sticky
Yeah.
sometimes.
So yeah.
And then there's usually like a baseline of just neutralness and like ordinariness.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Which is always there.
thoughts can happen, but they're just like it's like hearing somebody like a TV that's far off somewhere, it's just like not
Just in the
registered.
background. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in the background noise. Yeah. They're
Uh,
not important anymore.
that's it. The
Yeah.
the interest is has shifted to what's going on like this.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I had a few. dreams like that too. I wasn't very lucid as far as sleep dreams, but
Mm.
I would inquire like you did all day. Just it was fun, you know.
Yeah,
It was like
beautiful.
gotcha, you know,
Yeah,
to all the thoughts. It was like gotcha, you know, you're a
yeah,
thought.
yeah. You didn't get me this time.
Yeah. And yeah, just all the time I would just watch them and be like, that's a thought, that's a thought, that's a thought.
Yeah,
And you can see the nature of thoughts that way, you know, if you're open to seeing it, I
mm.
suppose.
I still, it's actually quite beautiful too. And I started noticing everything was a thought. And wait a second, that's a thought, and that's a thought. And it's like this labeling of just trying to label everything a thought, but it goes going back into it's like peeling off this its mask or whatever to see what's underneath it. You know, oh wait a second, that's a thought. You know, and it was kind of beautiful. I mean, to somebody else looking in and trying to do that does kind of adverse to doing self inquiry or to questioning thoughts or beliefs and all that stuff. To them, it would seem mundane. Of course, it would. Of course, the conditioning is going to say that, but because it's protecting something, and that's another thing I started seeing about beliefs is like, wait a second, it's the beliefs that think they're alive, the beliefs think they're entities, and it's just like, okay, every thought comes up and it's alive. The thought's alive. It's just not a thought. It's just
Yeah.
appearing as a thought. This is alive. So then, I mean, it's just kind of beautiful. The inquiry is how it brings it back in there, and it's not even popping up in thoughts like that. Just the recognition is there. It doesn't even need to be a thought. It's just so obvious. It doesn't even need to be thought about. It's so obvious. It's just like, what's the point of thinking? It's and it's like the thought. It's almost like the thoughts see that, or what do you want to call it, a mind or whatever. It's not really there, but it's almost what creates that structure of a believer seems to recognize that for a moment. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. And then that whole belief structure, all the beliefs and everything, you start to see that's what creates the believer, these beliefs. So that starts to fall apart, and those things then it becomes a little more transparent. And then you become a little less fearful of things, and then you might go into a self inquiry into what is the body, what is this thing. There might be a very strong interest there. It doesn't have to be, but there could be.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's there, that's okay. You go into that, and then and from here, that was very confusing when I went into there at first because then I seen there was no body. And then when the body's gone, there's still all that other conditioning there, and it wants to justify and validate itself, and because it wants to be sure, it wants to create that sense of certainty that, which is false because it's always free fall. This is always free fall.
Yeah.
Um, it's just just random, totally chaotic and wild. It's not ordered like that. The order is just all mental, which there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's actually quite beautiful in itself that it makes structures out of nothing.
Wow. It's so crazy how we don't do it, but
Yeah,
uh you can kind of see how everything is created and
yeah,
that thoughts make up everything, you know.
yeah,
And then they're inherently meaningless unless there's an energy of belief, like the lifeblood of thoughts. Like it
yeah,
makes it into a thought form, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It makes them very opaque. Once the beliefs in there, their thoughts are just opaque. You cannot see through them. They're
yeah,
not a thought. They're more. It's always that they're more than what they appear to be, which is really silly because they're not more than what they appear to. How what's more? It's exactly as it appears. So even the idea of more is exactly as it appears, more, but it's suggesting that there's something missing or but there's nothing missing. Even that feeling's not missing. The feeling that something's missing is not missing at all. So
yeah,
it's right there. It's full on. It's always full on. It's hard to get away from this.
yeah,
There's nothing else to get away from this. It's all this. So, yeah. But it can somehow make it feel like, yeah, that I'm an individual and I'm separate and I'm here, and that can feel very real. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, just saying that it feels very real, but there's no such thing as feeling very real. It's all
no,
this.
yeah,
But and that's where you can kind of see when when you're caught up in those words, you can see all the fight for the beliefs that go for those words will attack that word this. There's no this, but it'll attack that word as if there is a this, because that's a threat to that belief. You know, for that belief to survive, it can't have that other belief there because it feels like it's contradictory. Beliefs are very can't even say the word now. uh, words like to separate. So, um, And when they're believed in, when a word is really believed in, it's almost like a love there for that, a love affair there going on, a relationship there, a very strong
Yes.
relationship with that word. But it finds a lot of safety in that word too. So it's also using that word, because I feel very safe when I feel like I know what's going on. When I don't know what's going on, everything feels out of control. That if there's any me left there, it comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
any of
it's
that
a
structure still there in that conditioning, it comes up in those moments when everything feels like it's going out of control.
yeah. Like when you're overwhelmed, it's like a maybe some sort of comforting, mechanism, trying to make it so you don't have to feel the full onness, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Mine's going crazy at the time, and I mean, I've had moments like that. Well, I don't know where anything's going on. My mind starts reaching, going crazy. All these thoughts start going up, and it's trying, and literally feels like someone's trying to grab something.
Yeah.
Like it's slipping down the side of a. Oh, whoa, whoa! I'm trying to, and it's just going nuts. And then there was one time I don't know if it was a panic attack. I don't know what it was. It just came out of the blue. There was nothing that really triggered. It just started happening. And I just remember I started becoming very faint, feeling all that, the staticiness when you're about to pass out. That's what it felt like, because I was hyperventilating.
Mm.
And I just remember I just relaxed into it. I was like, well, if I do, I do. And then I just got and I said, let me get down. And I went down, I sat down on the floor and I said, I'll just lay down. And I lay down. So I don't have to worry about falling over or anything. And then I just said, go ahead. Just let this feeling out. And I did. I just kind of relaxed into it. I just remember my mind was really crazy. And then the thoughts weren't even making sense anymore. They were just words being jammed together. That's what it seemed like. And it was just like, and then the mind just completely gave up. It said, I'm dead. And it just gave up. We're dead. That's what it said. The thought came up, we're dead. I don't even know what word dead was supposed to mean or anything. And that just stopped. And then everything went completely quiet. And the feeling just kind of died down and relaxed. And everything just came back normal. And it was just like everything. I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
That's where I was sitting up and laughing about it. Going, what was that? That was so
Yeah.
strange. Well,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
it just
it's funny to watch the mind sometimes. It's just like regurgitated symbols and
yeah,
conditioned sounds and
constant labeling.
yeah, and it's so obvious now that it's not like a ghost that's pulling all the levers. It's not an entity.
No, just a
Um
little story going on in the back, like you said, almost like in the background now. It
yeah.
used to be in the forefront. Was like it was everything. That story when it was running, it was the whole world. It was the universe. It was the people it was saying that were there. It was me. It was just every thought was totally true. I mean, even the unthoughts were about something being untrue was true. Oh, it's true. That's untrue.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no budging on it or anything. So anything that would come up against that, it was just to turn into a heated argument down to right down into violence. Like, oh, you don't like my thing, and then we just get into fights and stuff. And I started understanding how war starts to happen. That's what people are fighting over. Wars, they're fighting over beliefs.
Yeah.
Very important beliefs.
Yeah, I made a video about beliefs. Did you happen to see it?
I've seen so many of your videos.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think
It
I've
had
had.
had a unicorn on the front of it.
Yeah, I think I have seen that one. Yes, yes, I do. I think I watched that one actually early on when I first started seeing all your videos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, who knew beliefs, man? It's like they're like God or something,
yeah,
like we worship them, we play God
yeah,
with them. It's not that we're doing that, but it's just what's happening.
yeah. It makes it seem like it's you doing it because there are beliefs, and the beliefs it's like the beliefs want to live through you, this structure of you it creates, this imaginary persona, character. And like I said, it's not there. It's beautiful because when you start to look into everything that creates that identity, when everything becomes up into choir into that, it just completely falls apart. That structure falls apart, and then there's still this. And then so you're left with this, and then it's like, and I mean, it's just there. It's just right there, and it's always right in front of your face. That's what I like about when Angela talks about it. He says it's always right there. Awakening's right there and staring right dead in the face.
Yeah.
I love when he says that. I just love the way he says it and he's very honest about what he says and everything. That's what I love about. It. He's so authentic about what he says. So yeah, it was just a lot of that stuff. It's just very much thoughts and beliefs and stuff like that. This. not feelings. The feelings seem to be covered up by all that. Like the feelings were so distant, so like almost not even like not happening. They were so far, so distant that there
Mhm.
was just like no attention to them whatsoever. And then
Yeah.
except when they become very intense, you know, when anger comes or sadness comes or when it was very intense and it'd be full on just take over, and then it's just that in the story. But the story's right there, feeding the entire feelings and covering it. As soon as there's a feeling, the story just step in and take it all over. You know, it's all about the story.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
uh it's weird too because I've always been heavily dissociated, you know. I had a lot of psychological issues and stuff and depression and anxiety. I'm sure you've heard me say that before, but
Mhm.
um when I was watching Angelo and he was talking about going into the body, I mean, I'd heard people say that before, but I was like, I had no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Um, and then
yeah, same here.
then I finally figured it out, like, oh, you put your attention on the way the body feels,
Right.
and it actually feels like this electric, tingly aliveness, which
Yeah,
you, you know, I've never really noticed, you know.
yeah.
So I was very dissociated. And then when you if you can get like the idea of your body out of your head when you're
Hmm.
meditating, you just feel like a cloud of
Mm.
electricity or
Yeah,
something that extends out.
yeah.
Um, but if you're triggered and you're able to drop the story while you're triggered, which is hard to do, but
Yeah.
it can be done. If you can just go into the body, you'll see that there's nothing wrong there.
Mm-mm.
There's
Just feelings, just
yeah.
energy, like this, yeah, this energetic feeling of what it could feel like anything, really. If you don't even label it, that's the wonderful thing. Once you stop labeling it, that's then you can really start to feel it. Once the story is not there no more, it's just the story can be there, but it's just like you say, it can go into the background or it can just be completely gone. Um, but it's just it's not it doesn't take center stage no more. And then so now the feelings are there, and then it's so funny because if that gets all the interest, then it's almost like the story is like an ignored child or something. Just puts the head down and leaves, but it quietly leaves. You know, it kind of peacefully leaves. But it like when I'm saying it puts its head down and leaves because it's going to come back. It's going it's not going to be ignored. So what is not going to be ignored, period. And it's just going to appear how it's going to appear. But the funny thing is all the thoughts seem to be trying to ignore what is. It's like it's because it wants to color what is. It wants to and then make it about the story because that's what it's going to be. Once it gets about that, then it's all about the story. So it's like trying to talk to somebody that's fully into the story. You're not going to get through to them. It's like trying to tell somebody there's no you that wants to believe totally in the story. Then I'm me. I'm standing right here. This is me. That has no desire to look into that. And you're telling them there's no you or anything like that. There's just it's like talking to a brick wall. You know,
Yeah.
they don't need to hear it anyway.
Yeah, it's it can seem like a like an entity, you know what I mean? But um it's just this mechanism that's supposed to be practical, like
Mm,
do a grocery list, you know, do your taxes. But maybe with trauma and you know, having to live in this world which is mad and insane, we grab onto that practical tool to try to control the world and
mm,
myself. You know, it's the only thing we have to try to manipulate and strategize. And
mm,
it's not meant to be used that way. And
mm,
it can become highly neurotic. Um,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Very. But I think we even downplay it. I think really, I think humanity really downplays even the professionals that are out there to look at it. I think it's even that neurosis is even deeper than they want to admit to. Of course, what me would want to admit to that.
Very much. I
Yeah.
mean, if you ask a psychiatrist, like who's a healthy person to you, name somebody famous, and they
Hmm.
said that that person is completely delusional. Like
Yeah.
that's normal. Um, to believe that I am doing this, you know.
Yeah. I was trying to think of. I think it was Ram Dass, something like that. I was listening to years ago, and he was talking about something like that. Yeah, they were talking about people who thought they were Jesus, and then they said it was what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of those psychologists. I usually have it. It's a psychosis. I think it's psychosis. Yeah. where he said where they think that they're just Jesus. Nobody else is Jesus, just them, that they're Jesus. And he said that, I remember them thinking, I said, but what's the difference between thinking I am Gregory and nobody else is Gregory? Isn't that the same thing?
It is. It really,
Yeah,
really is.
yeah,
It's the same.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's beautiful, and that all that too is the same thing, because all that starts to come in self inquiry brings all that into question, the whole identity into question. The me builds, belief structures. How it seems like there's a me that builds, but it's the beliefs that are actually building all that. It's not, it's
Mhm.
just doing it on its own. It's not like you can do it. So, but it does feel very much like you have the beliefs, that you get to decide which beliefs there are. But the whole beliefs are creating you. They're choosing you. It's making your whole structure up. This whole me structure
Yeah,
and the
it's like
believer.
it's the base assumption. You know,
Yeah.
it never really occurs to us to question that. Even
No.
when we're being told by teachers, we don't really understand what they're talking about. We're like, well,
Mm-mm.
who am I? Like, what?
Yeah.
Um,
Because I'm listening to the words when you're telling me certain words, then I'm going to relate them here. From here, at least that's how it looks. From here, I relate those words the way you say them to the meanings that I only have conditioned here, which might not even have the actual meaning that a dictionary might have. I might have completely made up that meaning of a word, so now I'm confused. But I think you're confusing me
yeah,
because
it's
we're not using the
so
same meanings behind the words, and we think that because we have the same word that we. So you can see the difference when people have discussions all the time. And then even seeing that will not stop an argument from happening. It'll still happen.
no, it's completely relative and
Yeah.
lost in translation.
Yeah.
Like
Those,
the
those are
word,
beautiful too, because you can't control the argument. If an argument starts to happen, it's kind of beautiful because then there's something there wants to fight against. That's not supposed to happen. We're supposed to
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, it's pure chaos, and
Yeah.
even when there's a trying to get your point across and not be misunderstood, not offend, or something
Hmm.
like that. I
Hmm.
mean, that doesn't matter. Somebody can
Hmm.
get pissed at you easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
They could
vice
be.
versa.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything, especially, it almost looks like this day and age, especially on the internet and stuff like that. It's very easy to find something to be offended about. There's a lot of offending going on.
Hmm.
And it seems like, and it looks like a lot of it's being intentionally done, like from one side to another side and all that. And it's kind of fascinating when you watch it and without any story going on anymore. It's actually really beautiful when there's no story going on
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
How many years did you seek? Like officially seek?
Yeah, like spiritual seeking. When I knew it
Mhm.
was spiritual seeking, yeah. I'd say 5, 6 years maybe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. But and I'd say that actually I'm not even including law of attraction in that, even though that was kind of spiritual, and that was kind of like on the borderline of that, because I'm not even looking at the religious stuff before that. I went through Christianity for a while. But like, what are we? Oh, you're Catholic. It's kind of like that. Oh, okay. And then that's part of your identity. So you start looking into that. And I used to remember going to like mass and stuff and being really bored. Like, I don't understand this stuff. Like, you might as well be talking to an adult. 'Cause why can't I go to Sunday school? So I do not understand this. Um,
Lesson one, you were born
yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah. So it was going through that, but there was no like desire to really, when I was young, to go or anything like that. It didn't happen until I was like an adult, and then felt like life was kind of hard, and then ending up in trouble a lot and stuff like that, because I was kind of a knucklehead as a teenager and really rebellious, and uh, really rebellious since probably around the age of 6 and stuff. That's where I started becoming rebellious and stuff. So just seeing something, it just kind of my whole innocence kind of got ripped out at one moment and stuff. Seeing something, so that was pretty traumatic, and that trauma just went carried on. Basically, was woven through pretty much everything, every waking moment. It was just, and not even seeing it at that time, not knowing it was that, but that trauma had that kind of impact. I didn't see it until later that how it had that kind of impact on me, and it was under how all that conditioning from it, from the anger to the feelings of grief that which that anger was protecting, which Angela helped me to see in that and uncovering of some of those things, because of the energy was there trying to come out, but the stories wouldn't let it come out. Wouldn't let it come out. They want to cover it up with a story all the time, trying to paint it to what it wanted it to be. Which is funny because it'll paint it into things you would think it would never want it to be. Why would you want to suffer? But the story does sometimes create something to really suffer about, really to be to have a whole lot of grief about, and then you can carry that around for years without ever looking at it. And it's just energy that's there. That if you even look at it, it's the funny thing is it's like I want to say, don't take it too literal, like a part of it goes. It doesn't ever come back again. And then like it's just all it needed to do is be seen, express itself, and go. That's it. And then there's other parts of it that just it still has to be looked at. You know, it still wants to. There's still something there. It's got to be seen and felt and all that. So and at least unraveled. You know, because it's so tightly raveled,
Yeah. It's
so
finally
tightly.
okay. It's finally okay not to be okay.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing too, is getting there. That's still the answer. There's nothing wrong with any of that. There's nothing trying to get rid of that anymore. And there was a time when trying, oh, that's not supposed to happen. Well, I got to get rid of the me.
I know all those
Yeah,
ideas we have. So
yeah.
silly.
All the funny ideas, all the notions it comes up with. Oh, I know what I'm looking for.
Even
Yeah,
making thoughts bad and stories bad
yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
yeah. There's a big
knowledge.
battle with that here, with that as well.
Yeah.
The whole, yeah. There's the was led to some crazy, funny uh expressions of hatred towards thoughts of these thoughts gotta stop, and that's a
Yes.
thought.
Gosh. Well, if we're gonna make somebody the bad guy, it needs to be belief, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's funny too, the belief, because then I remember because belief was made into a bad guy for a moment there, and then the inquiry turned to what is a belief.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, and then
it's not a bad thing. It's so automatic and spontaneous. You know, it
mm,
happens when it happens. It has whatever
yeah,
strength it's gonna have.
yeah,
But who knew that that thing that made us believe in Santa Claus when we were little would be the thing that made us completely delusional.
yeah. Come back and yeah, the one thing that would give you so much joy as a child can turn around and give you so much I don't know. I don't want to call it suffering, but then again, when you look at the suffering, it's not really suffering. So, but it feels like it,
Solidity.
But
Solidity.
yeah, validity. Yeah, yeah. I want to say if that thing is really real, then you're in trouble. If anything is really real, you're in trouble because that means separation is real and there's such thing as
Right.
real in reality, and then you're doomed. Yeah, yeah. Then you really have something to be worried about if that stuff is really real. I mean, so, but
Yeah.
thankfully, none of that is really real. And
Did you
it's fun.
ever experience like the fear barrier that Angelo talks about?
Yeah, actually, still coming up against that here and there now.
I
So,
still have those too sometimes.
oh,
It's just like a visceral sensation of falling or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it is. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to
Yeah,
orient from, nothing to look to hope for. It's extremely scary. It's not at all. It's probably the most. It is for me, at least from here. It's by far the most scariest thing I've ever seen, and I've
yeah.
seen some scary things.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I've been,
know what that is.
mm,
I don't I haven't had it in a while, but there was a time the last few months where it just would just randomly pop
yeah,
up, you know.
out of the blue, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Oh,
It's like I don't know, it's the self like screaming back from the beyond, or I don't know what it is.
yeah. Well, I noticed too when that steps in. Immediately the story starts telling that self, all of a sudden the me comes back really strong. There's this sensation. All I can say is it's a sensation. It's not like how it used to feel. Like there was an actual me there and all this. Now it's just it's kind of there, but it's see through at the same time. It's being watched. It's being observed. So it's
Mhm.
still objectified, but at the same time, there's not that identifying with it anymore. So there's almost a separation there, but it's a let me stand back and just watch this thing. It's no more that's me anymore. But it's at the same time, so there's curiosity there, a very innocent curiosity that's there. But that fear is definitely a fear there because that's what's pushing back is that fear.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't want to be seen, and it's just, and then at the same time, there's almost like this coaxing of it being kind of kind to it at the same time, being welcoming to it. Like, no, it's okay, it's fine. You can be here. Like I kind of want you to be here, but
It
for
feels like doom.
yeah, well, yeah, because that's what it feels like is impending doom. Is once you go in, because that's what it says. It'll say like if you don't back up, there's no coming back, and like you don't want to look at this. You really don't want to look at this. It makes these really realistic, almost threats, like very probably the most threatening things threats ever.
It's very clever.
Yeah, and it's just like, and then in the sense, because then when it starts to let into those feelings start to come up, there might be a hesitation. Whoa, like, oh, okay, maybe not, maybe
Mm,
not. But because
yeah.
that's happened here too. That's happened here quite a few, and then seeing that happen, and then okay, and then once I seen that happen, that, and then not even trying to fight that, letting that and kind of, then that dies down too, and it kind of lets it in more, and then it's just like okay, so there's like stepping closer to that, and it's already been here again, like through the anger, which was actually covering up grief and shame, and I never really got down to even to the bottom of what that shame was. But it was funny that a lot of that stuff was coming up. There was instant recognition. I'm talking about stuff from way back as a child, from when it was happening. That felt like it was happening again in that very instant. Like it
Mm,
was happening in real time, not just a memory, a thought, imaginary, something like that. It was just full on in that moment. It just took me right back to that moment again. Like it was like it never moment never stopped happening. So
wow.
that was pretty, and it was really neat in seeing that too, because and it was very beautiful, very serene, and how that all unfolded because it was just a total open, flowing unraveling of that.
Yeah.
And like there were tears and all that stuff too at the same time. There was fear still there. There was that. There was this just a very loving, unconditioned, just loving unconditionally there, just allowing all that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to even. I mean, that's the best I could put in words. Um, it's not easy to even put into words. There's really no words at that time. You know, there's no need for words. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and that's always there. That's what's crazy. You
Even
talk about in
when
that one video about unconditional love so well. It's just
oh.
the way you just. I was like, wow, this is one of the better ways I've heard someone actually talk about this.
Oh, I'm so glad you
So
liked it.
yeah, so it's just instant and everything you said because I never had the words for it, and here you are putting it into words. And then I've heard other people kind of put it into words, and they go there and the same thing. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like a flower blooming when it starts to open up, and the way someone puts it into words. But it's like, yeah, that's it. And um, yeah, when you're saying that, just everything's just full on. There's no pushing away against anything. It's just it's allowing for everything. It's
Yeah.
whatever's appearing.
It's like Adi Ashanti said it. It's like it goes from this to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like like I said, like a flower blooming, opening up to the sun. You know, just completely open. It doesn't want to. It's not saying the sun's too intense. It's not. Doesn't care how hot it is or anything. It just opens up and then it rests. And when it's fully open, it's just at rest. It's not like exerting energy to open up.
Yeah,
It's just
it's utter laziness.
yeah. To close up and stay closed up takes seems to take energy.
Hmm.
Seems to take a lot of effort and stuff to do that because I can remember just and walking through that with every day in life, just going to everything into everything like that with an effort, with a motive, with something to get out of it. And which is beautiful. All the self help actually
An
kind of
agenda.
instilled all that. Huh?
An agenda.
Yeah, the agenda. And then well, law of attraction too.
I've noticed there's something to the law of attraction message that is that I do resonate with. So
Yeah.
like what you resist persists.
Yeah.
That seems to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying because the law of attraction did show me how beliefs color the world and everything. So I can when I get into conversations with people, especially like on Facebook, and might post something, and I understand when I post something, when I'm posting is it was seen from right here, and it's an insight or whatever, and to them it's just random out of the blue. That's most of the stuff I post like that anyway. Um, uh, just post out there, and then they come back from their beliefs, and they start talking from there, and there's the understanding of that coloring of that and then pointing back to that and trying to point that out and trying to help them see the belief that's there. You do see that there's a belief coloring this, right? That's why you can't really understand what's being said here because you're really intent in saying that word is true. That's the only way to see this, and that's not necessarily true. But that's just how beliefs work because they'll get you fixated on that way because then, aha, here it is. It's true. Once it's really believed it's true, it's hard to see that it's a belief. It's not just a belief. It's not a thought. It's not a belief. It's way more than that. It's everything. It's reality. Seeing all that, how it colors all that stuff, and then coming out of it and being able to
Mhm.
see how that does that, it was just a great relief there because now I was no longer getting sucked into the beliefs anymore.
Yeah,
And
it helped me take responsibility, like, and get out of that victim consciousness.
yeah,
Feels like taking responsibility to the fullest, like as much as you can.
yeah,
It like flips and then it turns into no responsibility.
yeah, no, yeah, no response, which is kind of a going back to innocence a little bit, you know? Because it kind of takes all that out, it brings the whole. blame game out of it and stuff, and kind of brings that whole belief system of cause and effect back into focus. Because a lot of us we take that as just a given, like gravity or something like that. You just kind of, oh, cause and effect, and you get that early on in age, and someone tells you cause and effect, you don't even understand it, but you're getting it from all the adults, from all the trusted sources, all the authorities. And what are they telling you? They're telling you thoughts, beliefs. And that's what every thought and belief is trying to make itself an authority on
Mm.
what this is. Every single thought is trying to tell, even the word this will try to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're so gullible and naive and innocent.
Yeah.
We're just like a bunch of little kids running around like we're
uh,
insane little kids pretending.
yeah. Just tell you a word that sounds good. You're like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
that.
And then you go tell someone else all happy, hey, let me tell you about this. And they're like, no, nope, that's bullshit. Get out of here. You're like, what?
Yeah, it's so funny because
We'll
just
go to war.
simply saying this or simply saying that
Yeah,
uh it creates reality. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
it
it's like a
does.
magic wand, like the
Yeah.
language wand.
But you just said right there, that's the best, probably one of the better definitions of the word creation. There it could be right there because it does. It creates it. The thoughts create things that are not really there. Create out of nothing. Create some. Take nothing and create it and put it in. Make it into something. Take nothingness and make it into just a somethingness.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's funny
Uh,
because that somethingness is never even separate from everything that's happening. That's so funny.
yeah, it's much simpler than I ever thought.
Yeah, beautifully simple. And
Mhm. And
because it
obvious.
used to seem so complex. It used to seem so unsurmountably complex that even it's
Yes.
like, this is not for me. I guess I'm hopeless. I got nothing to offer the world because this is just too complex.
Yes. It's just like you're like straining to understand it. Like this
Yeah,
is it. This is it. What
yeah,
do they mean
yeah,
by that?
yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, the very first time I actually even heard that, and in fact, even heard it was Tony Parsons. I remember, and I was screaming at the screen while Tony at a recording. I was screaming at it as if he could hear me. I
Gosh.
was so angry. I was so mad. What do you mean this?
What do you
That can
mean
mean
by this?
anything. What do you mean this? You didn't say what this even means. What do you mean this?
Yes. I was the
Yeah, so
same
I was
way.
so mad because he didn't define it. He was because he didn't put any
Yeah,
definition behind it. Like, what do you mean? You got to say what it means then, because that can
exactly.
mean anything. It can't mean separation. And,
Yeah.
I was so angry with what he said. And there was still something here. And at first, I didn't want to watch any more of his videos. I'm watching no more of that guy's videos. Nothing. The guy's crazy. Why is anyone listening to him? And then that was, I think that was the curiosity. How can there be people that are listening to him? I think that was what it was. And I went back and watched another video, and then something in there just kind of relaxed and allowed it, even though there's still a pushing back against that word. I didn't. There's other things he said that it was like, well, I liked. It was just that word. This pissed me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of understand that, and actually even seen other people that get into like non-duality, and they seem to even talk about it like as if they understand what they're talking about and everything. And then all of a sudden one day they're mad about the word this. Like, wait a second, you had many conversations. You never had. You were telling me this, and now you have an anger with it. And then, but now I can kind of see that where that's coming from. Like I said, it's just more belief coming in there, inserting itself.
It's not in the words. It's not
Yeah.
this.
No, it's not in the words, and that's the whole thing. Is just trying to make it about the words, and then there's like this little battle going on because it's saying it's not. This is it's almost like this is saying no, it's not the word this. You're thinking it's the word this. Again, you got another mental model going on.
Is it this or is it not this? It's
Well, yeah,
both and neither.
yeah, and that's a beautiful place to be because at first the mind's like trying. What do you mean? It's either this or that, and then when it kind of like wait a second, oh, the whole teeter tottering in the mind kind of thing stops, and it kind of equanimity sets in. This equilibrium sets in and stuff, and it's like, oh, it is this and not this. That
Yeah,
makes
it
and
is.
that all of a sudden what didn't make sense makes sense, and what you thought made sense makes no sense at all. The whole
Yes,
division of this is not that. Of course, this is that. Of
that's
course,
exactly what
uh
happens.
yeah,
That's how it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then yeah, the idea of that's how this is, and then there is no this is how that is.
Mhm. And then you can't say anything that's not bullshit.
Yeah, everything's bullshit, and the fight against bullshit stops.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's okay that it's bullshit. Of course,
Yeah.
it's bullshit.
And then
Every word is bullshit.
somebody
Yeah,
tries to debate with you about something on Facebook, and you're like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
it can't be spoken. So,
yeah. Well, I get into debates that are not even debates. They're debates for, I guess, for somebody. I don't know who they're for, but there's this conversation going on this, and there's this like, oh, that's okay. And, it looks like an argument. I get it, and it looks like there's this fight going on. And I just see beliefs battling it out, and I say, okay, there's a belief there that wants to survive. There's a belief that says this can't. As long as that thought's there, then it can't survive because it's got to fight and validate itself.
yeah.
Otherwise, it can't. Because if the thing, if the thought can or the belief can no longer validate the thought anymore, then it completely collapses, and all you're left with is an empty neutral thought.
Yeah.
Which is always the case. Every single thought is empty and
Yeah. Yeah.
neutral, which is another great thing that came that I like the way that Angelo had put that in his words. So a lot of people put that in many words, and he put it so
Yeah.
simply. It was so simple
Yeah.
way he put it.
What did he say?
It just their thoughts are empty and neutral. They're
Yes.
inherently none. They're just empty neutral
Yeah.
thoughts. So, and
Yeah.
then ever since he has said that's I can't get that out of that's exactly how they are.
Yeah,
So that's how I
because
talk of them.
if somebody says, "Hey, look at how much money I have," you're gonna be
Yeah,
like, "Great, good for you."
yeah, yeah,
But if they
yeah,
say, "Hey, this is your money, here you go," it's gonna
yeah,
have a spark and a meaning.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
A
how simple it
charge.
is.
Yeah, it has a charge in it, and it does. It has like an energetic charge
Yeah.
to it. So
Li-
it's like plugged in with power. It feels like power. I thought feels
yeah,
powerful. I just believe.
lifeblood, I like to
Yeah,
call
yeah. Well, you said like lifeblood. It is. So it's like when everything drops out. When the whole story drops out, and then everything just looks like everything's alive. It is alive.
it. Yeah.
Everything seems to be sparkling with aliveness. And so, but when the story's there, it doesn't. Everything looks dull and
Yes,
unalive.
it's deadened because
Yeah, deadened.
because
Yeah.
because attention or interest is pulled away from it, and it's
Yeah.
in this conceptual fantasy land.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all it is in that moment. Yeah, just a conceptual fantasy, and we'll call it real. We'll give it that, but that's about it. And calling it real really doesn't really make it alive at all. It's still dead. It's still dead. Just and that's why the whole seeking, that whole finding out what's reality and what's unreal, and they're trying to determine okay, what's unreal. Because then when I was going into those beliefs, that's what it really was. It was like uncovering all these things that are unreal, all these beliefs I had and that I thought were real. And even though there was still that me sensation there that was doing it, and even during the inquiry, that's when it fell out. There's during a practice of self inquiry, I sat down to do self inquiry. Gregory sat down to do it as he had done many times. And in the middle of doing the self inquiry, all of a sudden the self inquiry is still going on, but there's nobody there. But the self inquiry is happening. Everything's here. Everything that is everything. Everything's just happening. But
Yeah.
I wasn't. There's no sensation of me, no identity or anything that did it. It's just happening.
Yes.
Well, not even observing, even though observing, I mean, I had to put it into words. So I'll say observing was happening, but that was not there. There's no sensation of observing happening. It was
Yeah.
just full on there was no distance. There's nothing. It was just gone. And it was just out of the blue. Nothing trying to make that happen or anything. And then that was just the scene. And then there was that recognition. And after that, it just, I can never let it go again. I can never, not see that.
Unsee it. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't, like, it's just there. So that recognition is just, it stays there. And it's just and even though it's part of the appearance, so it's like it's been already answered, like in the dreams, as far as that goes. Is that question that came up? Can the me come back? Come on, yeah, sure, it can come back. Why not? Who says it
Yeah.
can't?
Yeah. But it doesn't matter because it's not.
Yeah, it's not. It was never there. It never really mattered. It's not important. It's not special. It's really not. It makes itself out to be very special. Well, it makes everything out to be very special. So when it doesn't see its own specialty, its own specialness, then it becomes all about finding that. Or if it can't find that, then it becomes very dark, very it'll make itself special in one way or another in a very dark way. The me, man, it's all about the me making it about itself and how it's not special, and everyone else thinks it's special. So it's
Yeah.
gonna
And it gives value to everything, more
right,
or less value
right. It gives
and
everything a different value.
quality.
All in comparison. It's all compared to something.
Yeah, in comparison.
Yeah, which is great because there's really nothing to compare. There's just what's happening, and
Yeah,
then there,
value can arise now, but
yeah,
it's meaningless. Everything is even.
yeah, everything has like the same value. It's all
Yeah.
valuable, or it's all invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
It
and it's
cancels
equally the
itself
same.
out.
So, valuable and invaluable is the same thing. So it doesn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
doesn't mean nothing. So those words can come up and be used, and it's that's when the words lose their opaqueness, they become very beautiful. Thoughts are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
They're
they're
so fun.
harmless.
They're just fun, beautiful expressions. And then
Yeah.
the other time, and even seeing when they're causing trouble, when police are causing trouble, um, and you can see that happening. There's even there's compassion that rises up here, and that's
Hmm.
beautiful. Because then seeing that, I know how that feels when that belief is believed, and I
Yeah,
know that there's nobody there to help relieve a belief or anything like that. But there's also this freedom that wants to experience itself as freedom.
right.
It already is experiencing itself as freedom. So everything that's happening is already what's longed for.
Yeah, it's just an
So
expression
yeah,
of like a verb,
yeah,
not a
yeah,
noun.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so now you're going into like when Sander talks about his directness of like a bird singing. It's no, or the rain falling, the wind
Yeah.
blowing, and it's like yeah, and you see the beauty in it. It really is just like that. The words have no aim. Ultimately, the words seem like they have an agenda, but when you get past those, but that's also part of the story. So once you see past
Yeah.
that story, it's just like a bird singing. It's just singing. It's not singing for any reason, not trying to get something. It's just it doesn't know what it's doing. It
Yeah.
doesn't have a story running. The bird's not. I'm not here singing the song because I want a mate.
Yeah, it's like a little innocent kid that runs up to you and it's like, "Look what I colored." And they show you
Yeah,
the picture and then they run off.
yeah, yeah,
It's no different than that.
yeah. You might not even know what you're looking at, but you go ask the child, "What am I looking at?" They'll tell you the whole story. You know. Yeah, it's all very beautiful. Like you have a cat. Um,
Uh-huh.
we both or the cat that I showed you and stuff. That's my grandchild's cat. And she likes to come around and hang around me all the time. There's actually three of them over here. Cats will kind of let you know if you're petting them too hard or anything like that. They'll let you know. It's just the way they respond to you and stuff. They're very reactive. So and beautifully react. I love the way they react.
Mhm.
Because they're so like just everything about they could be in a dead sleep and something snap right out and they're in attention, just looking at the direction something came from, noise came from. It's just like, wow, how did you do that? Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
and then they get over it real quick.
yeah, and just completely over. And once it's over. Then you can tell it's not even unless they hear another noise, then it's like, oh, and they'll give it attention again, and then again, oh,
So,
just on off. They're not looking to make any of that or make their conditioning happen or change their conditioning or even analyze their conditioning. They're just full on with the flow of whatever's happening.
life has intelligence. It's already doing itself,
Yeah. Thoughtless
and
intelligence.
the beliefs aren't needed.
Well, you have this belief that there's a time that something's happened, but all you ever experience is this right now. So can you leave this moment, go to the past, wherever that is, to where past is happening, experience that, and then come back here and tell me about it. The belief that linear time is the past, that something happened, and they're throwing that out there as far as trying to explain that that led up to this moment.
Yeah,
But all there is this moment.
yeah.
What's happening, and it can't be really explained by a belief,
Time is psychological.
right? Well, it's
Uh,
completely psychological, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's just that's all it is, conceptual. It's all it was actually even created. We can actually go back and find out where it was created by the Sumerians. So what were they experiencing before Sumeria? You know, uh, they didn't have time before that in the sense of what how we use it now. And there's nothing wrong with the way we use it now. It's just not what
Well,
how
it's practical.
right. And it makes meetings like this possible, like where
Yeah.
you and I can come together, even though we're in the same time zone, but uh like we can have a conversation with say someone like with Sander and Rosa. We're out in Germany and where's he at again? It's
Sweden?
yeah, Sweden. That's right, Sweden.
The way we divide time and like borders and everything with our mind, or the way it's done naturally, everything is divided, dissected. Um, how we do that
That's
with
weird.
time, minutes,
Yeah,
hours, days. We do that with everything,
yeah,
like
yeah.
people, like not just physical bodies, but like this one specifically means a lot.
Yeah,
The world revolves around it.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. It's the center figure of the whole story, and it's like center stage the entire time. So it's constantly narrating, or well, it's when it's identified with the thought streams, and that's what
Mhm.
it seems like. It's just a constant thought stream. Thinking. It's even called thinking. So then that's what it feels like. I am thinking. I got to think about this, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure in that too. Got to, especially when something comes up and the threats are there. If I don't do something about this, it gets worse. I don't like it now, so I better do something. And so I got to think. I got to rack my head. I got to go do this. I remember that was pretty. That was some horrible stuff. Like sitting there for days on end, trying to rack my brain, trying to work something out, and eventually it might get worked out, but it wouldn't be worked out the way they wanted to be worked out, and it just even then. So once it get fixed or whatever it was, and there wasn't still wasn't enough. It was still, oh, I don't want that to happen again. So what am I going to do? Let's prepare for the next one, and it was just endless in that sense. And it was just always looking to thought, and thought was always promising that it would make things better, but it never ever made anything better. Belief never made anything better. Not
Yeah.
once. Not
And we
once.
we desperately cling to it
Hmm.
as if it's going to work one day,
Hmm.
just
The
as if
same
it's
with
gonna.
yeah, the whole seeking of knowledge is like that. So knowledge constantly promising that if you get the right knowledge, that things will be better. You'll handle it better next time around. You'll do this better. So knowledge is like the central thing humans are always looking for, whether they're in spirituality or not.
Yeah,
It's
it's
every single human out there trying to accumulate knowledge,
yeah,
and then
it's
and then
key.
it does, and everything it promises that it's going to do, it never does. It does the exact opposite it promises, actually. It gives you more suffering. and
Yeah.
and the suffering's not bad. It makes the suffering out to be really bad. So, and the suffering is almost kind of a gift to
Yes.
get you to see that, because once you start to open up to the suffering to look at what's there, then you kind of find
Oh,
there's no suffering. There's no sufferer.
wow.
So,
Such a
it,
trick.
yeah, it's a wonderful trick, really, because
Yeah.
it keeps it there. It works.
Yeah.
It it
It
can
makes
work. Yeah, it seems like it would work for entire lifetimes, because
it
I've
it,
seen
it kind of
there's
makes the world go round, right?
yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Humans.
Yeah, the whole human society is based on all that. So it's funny. The whole human story is based on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is,
I
and
can't
it
even
because
imagine what society would look like without self.
yeah, it's all just happening, and none of that's they're being controlled by any of it. It's not the thoughts that are controlling any of it, but the thoughts will say that they're the ones controlling it all,
I
that
know.
they're the ones behind it, and it's happening for them.
So arrogant.
Yeah, yeah,
This
innocently
is,
arrogant, because there's really nothing there
yeah,
behind it. But
yeah,
it, and
innocently.
everything thinks it's there's only this aliveness. So it's funny when a form kind of thinks that it's really a form. I'm this form.
Yeah. It
And
is
because
so
there's no
cute.
real forms. I'm looking right now. It's like there's this picture, this image right now of this thing, of this body, and then it's called answers to the name Leela. But
Yeah.
at zero distance, if I was to close in on this distance, it doesn't look anything like it does at a distance now. It starts to look more like skin cells and everything else. And eventually I get down there, it takes the place, that whole body's completely gone, and there's just atoms. What we call would say atoms, those forms
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's all those forms.
Where do you put a border?
Yeah, where is the border? Because and where do I say that the body's there, and when the body disappears and it becomes atoms, I can't say it's not those atoms when that's what's appearing.
Uh,
I'm just saying I'm just throwing a name on top of it, and it's not really that
yeah,
name, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, it is what it is.
yeah, because it
Uh,
doesn't matter what name I'm putting on, it's still what it is.
does it feel like meditating all the time to you in a way?
Yeah, it does actually. And I did that as a child, not even knowing that was a thing. The meditation does work, because it would do that, and making the thoughts kind of slow down.
Mhm.
But as soon as the meditation was stopped, the thoughts just pick right back up again.
Yeah.
So the inquiry was needed. So the inquiry kind of, like I heard Lexus Knight, she kind of explained it this way. All that seeking stuff kind of brought relaxation to the equilibrium to the body, and it did. That actually seemed to be going on here,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
with the thoughts,
totally.
because the thoughts had so much control here, at least it seemed, because I was very reactive, mainly to thoughts. Right?
I just mentioned meditation.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it seems like I can go back into it, but it's random. It just usually right before I go to bed, it's just random, you know, going into meditation. But yeah, I heard.
Do you feel that when you're like noticing like the feelings and stuff? Do you feel like it goes right into that meditative state?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever have like mystical experiences or anything like that?
I had quite a few of those and was really convinced about those as well. Early on and through self acquiring and everything. So and that's what I the whole self realization was the whole because that was the main thing I became went from enlightenment to me realizing I don't even know what enlightenment is. What am I
Right.
chasing it for? How can I
Mm.
be chasing something I have no idea what it is?
Yeah, we think we're getting to this place and there's gonna be some sort of attainment, but
Yeah,
that's not what's happening at all.
right,
There's like a dissolving and you just disappear eventually.
right,
It
right.
that's it. And you
Yeah,
see that you never were.
yeah. I had all kinds of notions, like tons of them, for what this is. And I can't even remember a lot of them. But yeah, that was one of them. The whole, oh, I'll disappear. Somewhere along that I will disappear, and then, or the first one, it was the world will disappear. Like this dream, this horrible whatever's happening, not me. Everything else will disappear. Because I am the self, the big S. So
Yeah.
that's what I was on at the time. So, and then going through mostly Ramana's teachings, and then also listen to like I said, Nisarga Gadada and Robert Adams and all that, and they speak of self realization. So then they became self realization. That was what I was after, self realization. And then self realization came and went, and there was nothing special. It was just part of the dream. That's all it was. It was saying, oh, it was special while it was happening, but it wasn't. And then a little bit after it happened, then I kind of seen it was like it wasn't nothing special. It's just oh, well, it's just part of this, part of this dream. Just so it wasn't great, but then there was also grief behind that because I thought that was everything. What doesn't end there? What happened? you know, uh,
Mhm.
I don't feel like you mean there's still things happening I don't want to be happening. That's not what I kind of thought. And then oh wait a second, and then seeing that oh wait that's resistance right there. Hold up, that's cool. And then so all these things started kind of bubbling up, and then but there was nobody there to take ownership of them
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, all the
Um,
insights and stuff.
yeah, and then the whole notion of trying to get something anymore started kind of gradually fell away. It didn't like instantly fall away for me, not here. It just kind of just little by little fell away. It's just like
Yeah,
what
very
am I doing?
gradual.
Or yeah, and then trying to also seeking on the other things, and then also saying there's nothing wrong with seeking because it was just like when there's thirst, you seek for water. There's a strong thirst there, you're going to be seeking for water. So I was like, the seeking doesn't stop. The seeking's fine, but it's not
Mhm.
a spiritual seeking anymore. I'm not trying to get something out of this anymore. So, and there was grief there at first, but then there was nothing wrong with that grief either. I was just the grief itself was like, no, that's supposed to be there. That
Mhm.
grief, because that grief is there for the dying of the dream that there was something to get. No,
Yes.
that's supposed to be there. That grief, and so there's no wanting to push that grief away either. So it's just letting the grief run its course.
That's a huge loss. I mean, it's not really a loss, but
Mm.
in the world of belief,
For the me, it's a huge loss. For the me, it's it's
yeah,
it's the loss of everything. There's nothing left.
it's just like not only can you not control anything and there's no getting better or becoming or attaining, but
Right.
you never existed like in the way that
Yeah.
you think you do
Right.
individually. Um,
Yeah, it's just like if I sit back and imagine myself as being somebody with a completely different life and different name, different parents, everything and stuff like that. And then as soon as the imagination stops, it's over. I'm not going to carry it on to the next thing. And that's exactly what the whole Gregory story is.
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a beautiful story, but it's
yeah.
still just a story. It's not my story. It's not anybody's story. It doesn't belong to anything. It doesn't have a source. It just pops up and there it was. I didn't choose it. I didn't say I'm gonna go and create a story. I want a story. I want my story. You know, it was just there, handed to me out of the blue. So, all of a sudden there was a me that had a story. And
So
you
it's
try to
like,
go and find the me where it even started. It was kind of interesting, it's like where did it really start?
yeah, yeah, it doesn't
What
give
didn't?
anything. It doesn't offer anything.
Right.
It's just like there's a whole layer of abstractions that are lifted like a fog.
Yeah.
And that can be calming and it can be a lot. a lot less neuroticism,
Yeah.
um, and like presence, I guess, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word. But it's not for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
like it when you say presence because not presence like a lot of people like something present. It's just yeah, in essence, this presence is this here,
yeah,
thisness, lifing. It's just it's not nothing in the terms of what mind thinks of nothing.
there's still most of the time there's a sense of location in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
But I mean,
But it's so light now. It's like it's just like you're just telling a story. Yeah,
yeah, but if
just
you
like
like
writing a
really
book and
look at it, it's almost like you don't know anything.
right. Yeah, yeah. And at first that's really scary, but then it starts relaxing and it actually is really nice.
Yeah, and then it's
It's
like
so nice. But
awe-inspiring. It's
yeah.
like you would
Oh yeah.
actually would never want it another way.
Right. Yeah. You get to really, really see the beauty as it is. So, and it's not a you seeing the beauty, it's just you are that beauty. That's all there is that beauty. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we can't know what we really are,
no.
because we are what we really are.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can't get
What is knowing
outside of
going to do with it?
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the whole notion of knowing means it's like it's going to enhance it or do something to, and you just can't, how do you enhance with something that's already fully everything?
yeah,
You can't enhance the whole idea of enhancing it just silly. The idea of enhancement like needs enhancement.
yeah.
So it just
I think it's not seeing what you are, it's seeing what you're not.
yeah. Yeah, that's something that Nisargadatta used to say that I really, really resonated with when he used to say that. It's everything that you're not. I
Hmm.
am is everything that you're not. So he would look at it, and the way he would speak of it like that is like because he would almost the same way that some use the word this. Is you can't really put anything on it. Try to put a meaning on it, and you just made it into something else. And like Robin Adams would say, you if you think about it, you spoil it.
Yes, or talk about it.
Yeah. And I would completely resonate when he said it. It wasn't like, oh, it's spoiled now because I talked about it. I was like, no, I get what he's saying. It- the words are not doing anything. The words are not changing anything. We think the words are changing something, and that's where the whole idea of change comes from.
Yeah,
Belief. We really think something's changing when we look at it, and people talk of change, and there's really nothing changing. Because in order there to be change, there has to be two things. Or
uh,
actually, maybe three things, because really it has to be the one thing that it is, and then it's going to change into a whole nother thing. Then what's it going to be in the meantime? Why it's changing?
yeah,
Because it's neither this and it's neither that. Then what is it? Then it's something in between all that, right?
yeah,
So even the idea that it could be two things is kind of loopy. It kind of doesn't really land anywhere. It doesn't really make any sense anymore. It used to make sense because there's the idea that separation was real.
yeah,
So but that no longer even makes any sense. So um it makes sense when people seem to talk about it because you know where they're coming from, but at the same time you see right through that.
yeah. And the wholeness can't even be known conceptually. It,
Mm,
it's
no,
not like, quote, awake people understand what this
no,
is.
right. And then they have it and you don't. Yeah.
Right.
And then what they have is understanding, or they have a knowledge that you don't, and that you are looking for and that you need. And when you have that understanding and knowledge, then you'll be where they are. Not true.
Nobody knows anything
No.
more than anyone else.
Nope. Words do not belong to anyone. I don't have thoughts. You don't have thoughts. There's just thoughts. So to say that they're my thoughts, that all that does is that what you're talking about creates that little I don't know, I'll say haze, creates like a haze over it, like a fog, like you're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
psychosis.
yeah, it does, and because when the fog's there, you can still see kind of through the fog and stuff, but everything's a little more harder to make out. It's not as easy to make out and stuff, and it's not as definitive and
Yeah,
stuff. So, and in that sense, but it's funny because it's when that all goes away, when that fog goes, there's no things to look at anymore to make out. There's nothing to make out. It's just all this. So it takes all that with it. It takes the whole idea that there's something to make out, to define and know what it is, and it's fine because it's all there. And when it is there, it's all there for practical reasons. I mean, even the idea that it's a practical reason is there for practicality.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
reason.
It's like a
So
navigation
yeah. So it's funny
system.
because even in our insecurity of when we think we need knowledge, then we get us an infinite supply of that. And then we use it to make ourselves give ourselves a false sense of, even though there's nobody doing this, but make
Mhm.
ourselves feel secure, but you're not
Yeah.
doing it. That's the other thing, is because that comes with a lot of guilt that I'm making myself feel insecure by holding on to these beliefs and da, da, da. I
Oh,
did not
yes.
choose the beliefs. I didn't choose them. So
No.
the beliefs chose me. They made me up.
Yeah.
So the whole idea that there's a me that has these beliefs and has to struggle with them is just another belief. And that reinforces the idea that there's a believer that's doing all that, and that protects all the whole belief structures, was the individual beliefs that hold it all together. And those
Yeah.
little beliefs, as funny as they are, they're not entities, but they really do take themselves as entities. And I'm not saying that just by observing, just listen to what a belief says. It talks as if it's an individual. I, blah, 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 me, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. And then so, like Angelo points out, there's nothing really there. The thought will say that, and until there's an inquiry into that thought, it's going to totally be believed that it's talking about, that there's a you and it's talking about you. But then you won't see the emptiness of that thought, the me. You can't see it. It's the ultimate thought too. It's like the ultimate strong thought of, once that thought goes, all the other thoughts they're all see through.
Yeah, I am. That's all it took. I mean, I didn't know how to get under that, or I mean, you can't know how. There is no how.
No, yeah, just
And
happens because it
yeah.
wasn't happening before that. All that information was there and it didn't happen. So it just come.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking to make it happen. I just went into self inquiry. I wasn't. I mean, the whole idea of the self inquiry. Yeah, Gregory was using self inquiry to get somewhere. He was trying to get rid of the me, and it didn't work because what fell out that wasn't there was me. The me wasn't there to experience its own absence, but there
Right.
was still this.
Exactly. Nothing happened. Right.
Yeah, there was still this. I just couldn't name what this was. There was nothing to stand on anymore. There was nothing to land and stick to
Yeah,
and
it's
orient from anymore. And that was kind of scary too, not being able to orient from and trying to talk to people. Literally was having the hardest time talking to people. It like took me hours to get to be able to even put words together again. Like,
wow.
yeah, I was there and I just stopped. And the inquiry just right then I was like, whoa. The inquiry stopped and I just started for the next half hour. I just laughed and cried. Uncontrolled, just laughed, just couldn't just laugh. Just I could not stop laughing. Could not stop, and then I got tears just coming out of my eyes at the same time. And it just makes it so it's like a laughter and grief all at the same time. But it was just
Yes.
yeah, it was just this total letting go and stuff. And then I went to sleep right after. It was so powerful, so energetic. It just whooped me and stuff like that. I was so tired, and I went to sleep. And then when I woke up, I was like, huh. It was just everything was really serene. And I remember just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm back, and it was like it had that voice again. It said like the devil, and my mind just went, "Bro," and just started racing again, and everything. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die!" And then it said, "Oh, you really did it now, didn't you? You really thought you were free, didn't you?" And like this, and all of a sudden, boom! And then I said, "I don't care," and then all of a sudden, it went away.
Yeah, I don't care. It's that simple.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't care. Didn't care. Like if that's what's gonna happen, go ahead. And it was just, it was very genuine. Like didn't care either which way. So it was just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I can call it now. I can call it equanimity, but then I didn't know that as equanimity. But yeah, it was just like I was totally okay with whatever happens, and then it just stopped from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the end of all that stuff, the whole believing in God and all that stuff, because it was. And I saw the how can you have a creator and a creation when
Mhm.
the created and the creation come back together and they meld back into one? There's neither creator or creation. There's just what is.
Yeah.
And then so what is just started to make sense. And then even then, that was even before I even heard people use the word what is. And I just said, no, it's just what is, like, as in what it is. And that's what I meant. It is what it is. And then I would say that a lot to people, and they're like, why do you keep saying it? It pisses some people off. And I was just like, it is what it is. Not, you can't change it. Now it's happened. It's happening. So what are you going to do about it? You can't
Yeah.
change it.
It was like a a a despair and a liberation at the same time, kind
Yeah.
of. And
Yeah.
I was laughing too and crying too, like
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Uh,
My roommate thought I was crazy. She literally thought I was something was going on with me. She heard me for like about 10 minutes of that. She only heard the last 10 minutes of it. And she even came on. She said, I just want to making sure you're all crying. She said, because I thought you were laughing. And then I heard you crying. And I said, I'm sitting there looking at her. I'm both. Face covered. I said, I was laughing and crying. And she's like, why? And I said, It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
okay.
she wouldn't understand even if you told her.
No, I didn't have the other words to even put it in anyway. So, and it was all beautiful anyway. That's how it really felt. It really didn't matter. Just even say anything. Everything was just
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, it was just
Wow.
fine as it was. And it was beautiful because after a while that kind of left, and then the whole idea that it was beautiful as it was, and I'd see other people suffering, and then it would like I'd start suffering when they'd suffer. Like I'm seeing them suffer, I'm fine, I'm not suffering, and I'm actually in a good mood and everything, and then come up on them, they're over there, and hey, what's going on? And they start telling me, and then I could feel all this suffering, and now I'm suffering
Mhm.
because I can like feel it. Like so all of a sudden their suffering somehow would make me suffer, and I was like, whoa, like why am I now suffering? And then I'd be stuck with it, and I'm trying to figure out how to help them not suffer. And then so it was all gone. That equanimity was gone. Now I'm trying to fix their suffering, so I didn't know how to orient from. But for me, I can deal with my own suffering. It's fine. Which I no, it is what it is. And it was this. There's still a fight there a little bit for quite a while with suffering, which was more just a misunderstanding of what it was, um, due to all the conditioning. Is trying to say, well, you're not supposed to suffer.
Yeah.
Push it away, get rid of it instead of looking at it or any of that. Because you look at it and you're gonna really suffer.
Did it feel like there was like a deepening of, well, it's hard to describe, but like more clarity or something like that since then?
Yeah,
Like,
it definitely more of a gradual. I'd say even then, because that's how it appeared. As more as those things dropped away, it would seem like it became clearer, more obvious. When you say clarity, for me, that means like obviousness.
hmm
It means I don't even have to think about it. I can just look at it and not even don't need a thought. It's like putting your hand in warm water. You don't need to think, oh, it's warm water. You already know it's
Yeah,
warm water. It's pointless to even think about it. But it's just this doesn't even need that. You don't need it. There's no identifying needed in that.
yeah,
So that's what I mean by clarity. As soon as that identifying comes in, that clarity seems to kind of be obscured a little bit. But even that doesn't happen as much anymore.
yeah,
So because there's no belief in those thoughts, there's no charges in those thoughts anymore. There are some thoughts that still get charges. So don't do anything about it. Just feel what's there, and it'll work itself out.
yeah.
And some people are looking at me because they're bringing me their problems and telling me about it. And I'm like listening and hearing what they're saying and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And they're looking at me because they're like they want some kind of advice or
hmm
something like that, and I'm not giving them any. And I'm just like, no, this is any advice. What do you mean? And I understand where they're coming from. They because that's very disorienting. Like I need to do something about this, and I came to you advice, and you're not giving me any. In fact, you're just telling me to sit it out, just wait, just and
That's all you
everything's
can
fine.
do. This
Yeah,
too is this.
yeah. Because the solutions themselves always came by themselves anyway. There was never me working anything out. So it was just
Exactly.
the whole freaking out of it when there's not a solution there, and so it doesn't do anything at all except for give that charge to make that seem so real. And watching my mind do this, trying to escape to another thought, trying to get rid of the grief. I'm like, no. So I'm just no. We're just going to stay in the grief. Fine, grief is here. Let's stay in the grief. So everything that was it was kind of throwing up. It was just kind of an openness to it, but at the same time, kind of a daring openness to it. Like, come on, give me your best shot. Give
Yeah.
it all to me. If you got grief, any grief there, I don't want any of it left back. Throw it all at me. Everything you got. Let's bring all this out. And so it's an openness to that, but like a daring openness. Like I said, it's like um, not a pushing away, but just come on already with it. Just bring this out already. It's okay now. And but there is something still there saying it's okay, that's not okay. But I'm also saying it's okay for that to also be there. It's still scary because that's how it's supposed to feel. I don't see how it's supposed to feel any other way. Um, it's like it's kind of an openness, and that's naturally how that's supposed to feel. But it's not being but it stays there because it's not getting expressed, or it's not getting its time in the light, or whatever you want to say. It's just because it stays like hidden, obscured, and it doesn't want to come out. It feels isolated. I know that's where I got a lot of this feeling of isolation from, where I don't want to burden other people with my problems. You can't force the openness. You can. I mean, I'm sure you're there at that point where you had a very strong desire for that openness. You wanted that openness, right? You see, it's almost like you recognize it, and those. It seems like somebody has something that you don't have, and that's just openness. They're
hmm
just open. That's all I seem to see on their end of everybody that ever thought, oh, they got something I wanted, and I look at it now. No, they were just open. They were just. That's all there was. There was just this openness.
Yeah.
And it's already there. It's already there. It's not covered up. It seems like it's covered up.
And sort of like an honesty too, just saying what's here.
Yeah, yeah. Sincerity,
Mm. Authenticity. Mm.
authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you get to the point where you see there's no such thing as authenticity or inauthenticity.
right.
It's all equally this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when it starts getting really beautiful, and that's when you can see the fight between those thoughts and trying to get this one, trying to be this thought over that thought. I want to be authentic. I don't want to be inauthentic. And it kind of
It's,
ends, brings an end to that whole fight, that whole
yeah.
pushing and pulling.
That's how questions fall away. There's no one asking. There's no need to know, and there's no way to know.
Yeah, yeah, and the knowing's not going to change anything. It just all it's going to do is give an appearance of having changed, and it's still all this. So nothing's really changed. All you have is another illusion that you're going to be really upset for if that illusion changes. If
And
the appearance of that changes, you're going to get really upset.
yeah,
Um,
tragedy can still happen, but it's mostly comedy now.
yeah, yeah. So then it became all about happiness, and so like I'm seeking my happiness, and then even at the point where I thought, okay, I've mastered all this, and I have all these things, and I'm manifesting this, and I have as much. This is still not enough.
Never is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even then, and I thought I was creating my whole reality and everything, and that was not enough. It's like, wait a second, this is if this is all there is, and this is not enough, then what's left? And then at that time, then it became another went right back into despair again because now there's another system, another belief system dying on me that failed to produce, and it wasn't what I thought it was, and I'm going, why am I still doing this? I'm still going through one belief system after another.
Yeah.
Every time I think I found something, I'm standing on something, and I think it's true, and this time I really thought I had it. I'm so over all this stuff. I'm just done. I'm done. All this stuff, all these beliefs. But then I didn't even know what to do. I was like I can't go on living like this. Like I can't live in insincerity. I can't be inauthentic. I can't. That's
Mhm.
how I felt. I was like, I just can't live that way. I can't. I don't know. Someone in there was just saying, I just can't do this.
I may have to let you go soon, Gregory. I got a few things to do, but
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been talking your head off here for a while too long.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
It was lovely talking to you. And maybe we can talk again soon.
yeah. Sure. Anytime.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Gregory.
Yeah,
Talk to you later.
yeah. You have a good one.
Bye.